Greetings again everyone, and today I'm checking out a neat new little aps-c autofocus lens from Yongnuo, their 56mm f1.4 DSM WL Pro. It costs about $268 by itself and $58 extra for a little remote control, which I'll talk about in a minute. That's potentially good value for money for such a bright aperture autofocus lens. Well, if it turns out to be any good, of course. It's currently available just for Nikon's mirrorless Z mount cameras, but versions for Sony's mirrorless E mount and Fuji's X mount cameras are coming too. As I mentioned, it offers an aps-c image circle, so if you fit it onto a full frame camera, you'll have to shoot in a lower resolution crop mode. I'd like to thank Yongnuo for sending me a copy of this lens for testing, although as usual, this is a totally independent review. 56mm on aps-c is a wonderful focal length for portrait photography, the full frame equivalent of 84mm, giving you a strong emphasis on your subject and somewhat compressed backgrounds. This focal length is really popular, and with a maximum aperture as wide as f1.4, this particular lens can get you some really striking images, even in darker situations. The design of the lens itself is quite good looking here, and its build quality is very nice and metallic. At 375 grams, it has a bit of weight to it though, and it's fairly large too for an aps-c lens. It's a metallic lens based on a metal lens mount with a weather sealing gasket and a USB-C port around the side with a rubber cover for future firmware updates. Then we get some controls, 2 customizable function buttons and an auto manual focus switch, which can also be set to turn the wireless remote control on and off. As I mentioned, the lens can be bought with an extra remote control, which allows you to adjust focus remotely, A to B focusing and adjusting focus speed, and apparently starting and stopping video recording. Interesting, not something I need at all, but some video makers doing unusual projects might be interested. Then comes the aperture ring. It only turns smoothly, but can be customized to control other options too. Then comes the manual focus ring, which is also metallic and turns very smoothly. The lens's manual focus response is quite smooth here on my Nikon Z mount version of the lens. Some breathing is visible here as you focus in and out, but it's not strong. The lens's autofocus motor is quiet and accurate, working surprisingly quickly too. It's great to see Yongnuo's lenses performing so well in this regard. The lens has a 58mm filter size and comes with a fairly deep plastic hood. It does not feature image stabilization, but the internal stabilization of my Nikon camera worked perfectly with it. All in all, the lens's build quality feels very nice, and its electronics work absolutely fine also. So let's look at image quality. I've got a Nikon version of the lens here, so I'll be testing it on my Z7 camera in its 20 megapixel cropped mode. At the time of writing, 20 megapixel is the highest resolution of Nikon's aps-c cameras anyway. In-camera corrections are turned on for this test, although they didn't really seem to do anything, unfortunately. At f1.4, the good news is that straight away we are seeing excellent sharpness and contrast in the middle of the image, but with just a touch of purple fringing, and I can tell you now that any purple fringing does go away at f2. Let's look over into the corners. Okay, the uncorrected pincushion distortion is warping the image a bit, but still, we see plenty of sharpness here and not much colour fringing. Stop down to f2 or f2.8 for corner image quality to quickly become brighter and perfectly sharp. The lens stays this sharp down to f11, although f16 looks rather soft due to diffraction. Overall though, we can give Yongnuo a pat on the back here. Apart from the annoying distortion issue, this is actually excellent image quality straight from f1.4. Well, on a 20 megapixel sensor, that is. Alright, let's take a closer look at that distortion and vignetting. As you can see, the pincushion distortion is disturbingly strong here. Vignetting is strong at f1.4 too. Stop down to f2 or f2.8 for those corners to brighten up very nicely though. The lens's minimum focus distance is 60 centimeters, not too bad for a lens of this type. At f1.4, unfortunately, we see a very ghostly image with blue color fringing. Stop down to f2 for a cleaner image, but it's only really at f2.8 or especially f4 that we see impressive sharpness again. Let's see about work against bright lights now. Ouch, what happened here? At f1.4 we experience very heavy flaring of all different kinds. Stop down to f2 though, as I do here, to greatly improve the situation. Next, Bokeh. Out of focus backgrounds and foregrounds are rendered beautifully softly for such a low budget lens here. Very nice. I didn't really spot any serious problems at all. And finally, longitudinal chromatic aberration. At f1.4 it's very strong here, as well as at f2 and f2.8. Ouch, it's a wonder the bokeh looks as nice as it does. It's still there at f4, but at f5.6 it's finally mostly gone. Alright, there you go. I hope you enjoyed your lecture. This lower budget aps-c autofocus lens is a bit of an optical mixed bag. In fact, it took us on a pretty wild ride here. It's very sharp even at f1.4, which is great to see, but its non-functional in-camera corrections means you'll be dealing with strong distortion and vignetting in your final images. Flaring, longitudinal chromatic aberration, and close-up image quality are all on the poor side as well. It's a shame, because the earlier 33mm Yongnuo lens was far better than this one. Despite the 56mm lens's low price, it's hard for me to recommend due to all those optical issues, although I'll admit it can still get you some pretty striking images. Thanks for watching everyone, and a special thanks to my Patreon supporters who are making such a big difference in keeping this channel going sponsorship free. And I get a lot of very weird and frankly inappropriate emails asking to sponsor my videos these days. I love making exclusive bonus content for them, as well as giving early access to some of my most interesting videos. Check it out in the description below, and ciao for now everyone.